Hey guys, how's it going? It's Danconia and welcome back to the Overwatch League Roundup 2020 Paris Eternal preview. So, the Paris Eternal, one of our new teams in 2019, only the second team from Europe. Paris Eternal in 2019 went with a very European roster. With a lot of French players, they managed to lure soon away from the Los Angeles Valiant for obvious reasons, because he's French. And Paris were kind of the flag for the EU region in some respects in the 2019 season, where they didn't do all that well. They came 14th. They kind of took some scalps, but then disappointed in some games that they should be winning, and an 11-17 record. They weren't in the playoffs, and Paris, they were mediocre, I think is the best way to describe it. So Paris want to be a team that can compete for the playoffs, because obviously every team does, because that's the aim of the game in the Overwatch League. Great statement from me there. Anyway, so Paris Eternal have decided to change up their roster slightly. We will start off with their coaching staff, and that's different to usual because the coaching staff this year for the Paris Eternal are completely different to what they were last year. So they've let go of Feifei, or Fifi, I'm not sure which one it is, who was head coach. He's gone to the Toronto Defiant now. They let go of Kai. Yeah, we won't talk about Kai. And they've let go of All Bless, their team manager, who's now at Toronto Defiant as well. And their strategic coach, Sater, has now gone to the Philadelphia Fusion to be a strategic analyst. So this freed up a whole host of roles in the Paris Eternal backroom, which have been filled by a lot of different people. So they brought in South Korean General Manager 9K, they brought in Assistant General Manager Avala, they have brought in Team Manager Yoon, they have brought in Head Coach Rush, Assistant Coach Aid, and another Assistant Coach Levy. You will notice that all of them are South Korean. Yep, this is going to be the theme of this video. So Levy comes from the Shanghai Dragons. He also had a time at Element Mystic. Element Mystic is going to come up a lot during this video, so be prepared. This is a good pickup in the coach role for the Paris Eternal alongside Aid, who you all recognise from the Toronto Defiant last season. He was a player for the Toronto Defiant, but has now gone on to become a coach for the Paris Eternal, much like SNT has for the London Spitfire, now known as Awesome Guy. Then we have their head coach Rush, who was coach at Element Mystic last year. To be quite honest, this is a really good pickup. Element Mystic have been really, really good in Korea, especially in 2019, where they have won the Gauntlet. They came second in Season 2, only to run away, and they won Season 1, and they won the Pacific Showdown. They pretty much won every single major competition that they could have been in last year. So, very good pedigree coming into the Paris Eternal right now. But with Rush and the rest come quite a few wholesale changes to the roster at Paris Eternal. So, out go Elich Cloudy to the Los Angeles Gladiators, Finzi the tank to Team Envy, Danye the DPS, and Shadowburn, all leaving the Paris Eternal, freeing up some spots for some new blood. They did retain Soon, Nico, Bembest, Hip, Cruz and Grey. So there is this still core French/European kind of line to this Paris Eternal roster, but now there is a dash of Korean. So there's two new Europeans coming in. This is the British off-tank Smex and the French support FD God. Smex comes in from, Montreal Rebellion, and he has always been very good for Team Great Britain or Team United Kingdom in the Overwatch World Cup. Smex has been around the block in European contenders and NA contenders. He's a really good player, and I'm surprised that someone hasn't given him a go before, but I don't think he will be starting for the Paris Eternal this season. And then we have FD God, who comes in from Young and Beautiful. Again, another support player that's been around the block in European contenders. He is still only 18 though, which is really good from that point of view. But he's been at HSL, he's been at Shoes Money Crew, August and Hungary, where he will know Cruz. And I think this is a really good pickup for the Paris Eternal as well. But then we get on to the new blood. And when I talk about new blood, I talk about new South Korean blood. So we have Ji, the DPS. Ji comes in from, yes, you guessed it, Element Mystic. It's going to be a theme. He's a hit scan mainly DPS player. He plays the McCree, the Widow. He's also got a Hanzo in his back pocket. And apparently a Zenyatta, but I don't think he's going to be playing that very much. Again, part of this Element Mystic roster that did so well last season, so we really can't there's not much to say. He's been at Element Mystic since January of 2018, and he's won everything there is to win. So it's good pedigree coming into the Paris Eternal. On top of that, though, we have some other players. Now, this is the odd one out. This is No Smite. You'll know No Smite as the main tank that was playing for Hangzhou Spark last season. He then disappeared from the Hangzhou Spark and signed up with Billy Gaming as a two-way player for the Hangzhou Spark and played most of his time at Billy Gaming in China. No Smite played second fiddle a lot to Gushui at the Hangzhou Spark, and so he probably wanted to find another place to go and ply his trade. He's now been given the chance to become main tank for the Paris Eternal. Is it a massive upgrade on Ben Best? I don't really know. If No Smite can't get in the Hangzhou Spark squad, or the starting lineup, why would Paris Eternal want him? Perhaps they've seen something we haven't, but it doesn't seem like a massive upgrade, but I still think it is an upgrade on Ben Best. Then we have the two players that are currently underage. So this is Sparkle and Hanbin. Sparkle and Hanbin both come from Element Mystic. Yes, we're going there again. So Sparkle is a phenomenal, and I mean phenomenal, DPS player. He is by far the star player of the Element Mystic squad from last year. He is only 17, and you won't be seeing him until May, June, because he doesn't have his birthday isn't until May the 31st, so he won't turn 18 until about halfway through the season. This means that they will be missing Sparkle early on. I don't think this is a massive loss for the Paris Eternal, because I think they've got very capable DPS players. Remember, where they've still got Soon and the likes. But it will be a miss. Sparkle, he could be a real breakthrough player when he does come of age, because he was phenomenal in Korean contenders. Like, he was really good. And he was odds on that someone was going to pick him up. I was very surprised he ended up at the Paris Eternal, and I think that is mainly because of the draw of the rest of the Element Mystic players going to Paris Eternal, and the coaches, one or two of the coaches going from Element Mystic to Paris Eternal. I think that's what's drawn Sparkle there. Otherwise, I think he could have had a better team. I was expecting Sparkle to perhaps pop up for someone like the Vancouver Titans or the New York Excelsior, maybe London Spitfire. But it turns out that Paris Eternal have got quite a coup in getting Sparkle, and he's a really good player. He's mainly a projectile player, but he is darn good. So I can't wait to see him in the league. He will be very interesting to watch. And then we have Hanbin. Hanbin is an off-tank player. Now, again, he comes from Element Mystic, as I said just now. Really good pedigree, won everything there is to win with Element Mystic last year. And again, probably lured by the fact that, you know, they have so much Element Mystic influence at Paris Eternal now. Now, his birthday is on February the 20th, so he is still 17, and for the first couple of weeks in the league, he won't be available for the Paris Eternal. So this is probably where Smex is going to come in and be the starting off-tank for the Paris Eternal in the early days. So, in terms of what we will probably see early on for Paris, is probably they will run the more traditional Paris roster of Ben Best and Smex, I would have thought. I say traditional, Smex wasn't there last year, but I would expect it to be more French and, you know, more European, and then these Korean players will mould their way into this squad as they get used to it, as they learn the language, as they, you know, integrate into the squad. And then when you come to the middle of the season, and I'm talking, and I don't want to overhype the Paris Eternal, don't get me wrong, I do not want to overhype the Paris Eternal. But what this reminds me of is San Francisco Shock in the inaugural season. They had some really good players, some weren't of age, and they started moulding them in. And as the season went on, especially towards right at the end of the season for San Francisco Shock in the inaugural season, they got a lot better. And then the season afterwards, we all know what happened. This could be a similar scenario. They have really good coaches, and they have some really good players coming in. Some already available, like She and No Smite, and then the rest of the European roster that they've already got. And then they have Sparkle and Hanbin to come in as well. And it wouldn't surprise me if we end up seeing a Paris Eternal squad that's got perhaps a French backline, or a European backline made up of someone like Cruz and FD God, and then a majority Korean rest of the starting roster, with No Smite and Hanbin being the tank line, and then G and Sparkle being the DPS, because G and Sparkle will work really well together because they've both been playing together at Element Mystic. So I am quietly confident for the Paris Eternal going into this season. I think they are a very good, on paper, looking team. I think there is potential that hasn't been unlocked in these European players last year. And I think there is really good talent waiting in the wings for Paris Eternal. And then this new coaching lineup, as long as the European side of the Paris Eternal doesn't get alienated by this new South Korean coaching lineup, I think the Paris Eternal could be a really good team this year. And they could be a team to watch out for, especially when those players come of age. They might not be brilliant to start off with, but as the season goes on, I think this team could really, really improve. But talking of the start of the season, let's look at what we see for Paris Eternal in terms of fixtures. They will start us off in week 1 at New York, where they will take on the Toronto Defiant and then the European rivals, the London Spitfire. So Toronto Defiant have made some significant improvements in this off-season, so that could be a tough fixture for the Paris Eternal, especially with them missing those newer Korean players. Then the London Spitfire, well, we just don't know what the London Spitfire are going to do with this new roster they've got. Let's be honest, London could be crazy good or crazy rubbish. I was going to swear. So Paris, it's a very difficult one to predict, that London game. But then in week 3, they will go on to play the Washington Justice. Washington Justice improved late on last season, and I think they will continue to improve in 2020. Whether they will be, as some people are predicting, playoff potential, I don't know really. I think some people are perhaps overestimating the Washington Justice. So I think this is a winnable game for the Paris Eternal. And then Atlanta Reign is where things start to get a bit difficult. Atlanta Reign, I think, will be up there somewhere around those playoffs, because Atlanta Reign have got a very good squad, but Paris Eternal have the possibility, especially with this new coaching lineup, if they can get the best out of the squad that they have, to really give these teams a go and perhaps be one of the surprise teams coming into 2020. But I am going to leave it here for the Paris Eternal. We are really cracking through these previews now. Next up will be the Philadelphia Fusion, and then we're getting onto the S's. We're getting near the end of the league here. Not long to the San Francisco Shock and Seoul Dynasty, Shanghai Dragons. Interesting roundups to come in the coming days. But for now, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you in the next video. See you then.